Welcome, NutritionRadio.org listeners. This is Lonnie Lowry, a university nutrition professor of over 20 years and podcast host of long-running shows like Iron Radio. Come on in. Weight management tips. Hey, everybody. We've got a weight management tip for you today. It's actually a little bit of a dive into a couple of different studies and how they might apply to fat loss. Before I do that, though, just a little bit of housekeeping. Thank you to those of you who have left a review on iTunes. Unfortunately, due to a technical glitch, iTunes removed your reviews and now it's showing up as none. In any case, it's been a couple of months recording these daily brief news bits, and we're going to start running a little bit of advertising in the next 6 months or so just to see where this goes, including a renewed interest in trying to do some bonus episodes that are full length and get the Iron Radio crew all together and try to get the word out for that show as well. But in any case, our hardcore loyalists do deserve a weight management tip for today, and that's what we're going to offer. And that is anti-inflammatory components in your diet may be helping with fat loss more than you know. Now, we just discussed an updated umbrella review from Thailand of 50 studies on curcumin, and I'm going somewhere with this. Although they couldn't place an exact mechanism on how curcumin worked to help improve like waist circumference and that sort of thing, they did conclude that in persons with obesity and related conditions, it improved body composition alongside reduced inflammatory cytokines. These immune substances, they're catabolic to muscle tissue, and they're sort of connected with excess body fat. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't say that people with obesity, that's a complex condition. They have adipose tissue dysfunction, and we talked about that a little bit before. Additional inflammation compared to normal weight or simply overweight persons with less body fat. But that doesn't mean that only obese persons can benefit from some of these anti-inflammatory nutrients. In particular, what struck me was the similarities that we saw in some of those curcumin data with fish oils and what they have been shown to do when it comes to not just inflammation, but body fat. So we're talking about EPA and DHA, right? Eicosapentaenoic acid and docosahexaenoic acid. That's why we use the letters. They have similar effects, including in simply overweight persons, so people with a body mass index in the upper 20s, not quite obese, and even healthy normal weight persons. So just taking the whirlwind tour here, Du and colleagues in a 2015 meta-analysis in PLOS One, the Public Library of Science One, it's a journal, looking at overweight or obese persons, said this, actual quote here: waist-to-hip ratio was significantly reduced in fish oil supplemented individuals with or without combination life modification intervention. That's curious, isn't it? Current evidence cannot support an exact anti-obesity role of N3 polyunsaturated fatty acids, right, omega-3s, in overweight and obese subjects. However, these subjects may benefit from reducing abdominal fat with fish oil supplementation, especially when combined with life modification. So again, additional effects when you throw in some of the lifestyle improvements. But let's look at another 2015 study. We're not doing deep dives here today. We're just taking a look, some of the quotes here. Logan and Spreet. And I've actually shared a hotel room once upon a time with Lawrence Spreet, very famous researcher, done a lot of work with caffeine and all sorts of things, glycolysis, just all over the place. This is also in the PLOS One journal, testing healthy, community-dwelling older females. Here's a quote. Fish oil supplementation significantly increased resting metabolic rate by 14%. Energy expenditure during exercise, so not at rest, but exercise by 10%, and the rate of fat oxidation, right, fat burning, during rest by 19%, and during exercise by 27%. So big time increases in metabolic rate and fat burning. In addition, fish oil consumption lowered triglyceride levels in their blood. That's very typical to fish oil literature. And increased lean mass by 4% and functional capacity by 7%, while no changes occurred in the placebo group. And for the record, they used 5 grams per day of total fish oils with 2 grams per day of EPA and 1 gram per day of DHA. It's really important to look at the EPA and DHA as the active components in these supplements. But that's really remarkable stuff. Now, I should point something out, that the choice of the placebo condition, the kind of fat that they choose, is really tough in these kinds of studies. Some of them compare it to corn oil. I like that one. That's an overconsumed sort of pro-inflammatory oil. Some of these studies compare it to safflower oil or olive oil. Some of these oils actually have beneficial effects of their own, like olive oil, of course. So, it's really touchy when you're trying to look at group differences, and even the placebo might work. All fats have nutraceutical properties, is what I'm saying. But I promised I wouldn't do deep dive and geek out. Let's look at another one here. In 2010, a former lab mate of mine, Eric Noreen, using 4 grams per day of fish oils that supplied 1,600 milligrams per day of EPA and 800 milligrams of DHA, and again, comparing it with safflower oil, reported in the Journal of the International Society of Sports Nutrition that 6 weeks of supplementation with this fish oil amount significantly increased lean mass and decreased fat mass. That is, again, that's pretty consistent and very interesting. These changes were significantly correlated with a reduction in salivary cortisol following the fish oil treatment. I've seen other work with omega-3 fats potentially lowering that adrenal cortisol response to stress. So pretty cool there as well. However, no significant differences were found in his study for body mass, like overall weight loss, resting metabolic rate, or respiratory exchange ratio. In other words, a shift toward fat burning. Now, I'm not surprised that there wasn't a change in overall body weight, because if muscle mass comes up just a little bit and fat mass comes down, right, overall that's not much change. This is one of the reasons I don't like it when people say, they don't just say improved body composition, they'll say somebody decreased body composition. What does that mean? You have to talk about what compartment, right, that you're speaking of. In any case, we're talking about 44 healthy adults in Eric's study that were healthy. So very interesting stuff here. And just to double down on something here, these results are not new. Going back in time to 1997, Couet and colleagues, C-O-U-E-T, they look at the effect of dietary fish oil on body fat mass and basal fat oxidation in healthy adults. They reported, quote, body fat mass using DEXA decreased with fish oil, and when adjusted for lean body mass, resting metabolic rate was unchanged. But basal fat burning did increase. Basal lipid oxidation did increase with fish oils. So we can see that depending on the variable that these researchers measure, whether it's body fat mass in kilograms or it's RER, right, a shift toward fat burning, fat oxidation, whatever it may be, or increase in muscle mass, usually we see an underlying kind of thread here that improvements in body composition take place, or metabolic effects that could lead to that, when they take enough EPA and DHA. Now, it's interesting to point out that usually when it comes to unusual fats like this, you'll start to see effects when people supplement about 500 milligrams, half a gram or more per day. A lot of these researchers are using more than that, as you can see. I personally take between 2,000 and 3,000 milligrams of total EPA plus DHA. Again, I'm looking at those active ingredients, but that's really high. I'm not saying you should go do that. Go talk to your doctor about this sort of thing. So I hope that was helpful. Again, just kind of recognizing there seem to be similarities between curcumin and what it does, and fish oils and what it does, or what they do, when it comes to not just inflammation, but this connection with body fatness and reducing it. And if we are seeing some of those catabolic inflammatory cytokines come down, that might explain why there's a little bit more lean mass after, 6 weeks or more of supplementation. I personally think that when you replace a deficiency, a relative deficiency, you get more dramatic effects. And we have such an underconsumption of omega-3s in the Western world compared to omega-6, like from the corn oil, safflower oil kinds of things, that I do feel like we're sort of replacing a deficiency, and that's why you're getting these pluripotent effects. But okay, I rambled enough. Thanks for tuning in. Please tell a friend about the show. Let's try to do this virally, try to get other quality people. And when I say quality people, of course, I mean nerdy, interested people listening to the show. Also, if you left a comment or a review on iTunes, I might even ask you to think about doing it again, maybe modify it, make it better in some way, because they wiped it out. But we will not be deterred. We're going to keep forging ahead, and I'll see you next time. The nutritionradio.org podcast is for informational purposes only. If you're interested in starting a diet or exercise program, check with your physician, nutritionist, or qualified exercise physiologist in order to make the progress that you need.